Power is my mistress. I have worked too hard at her conquest to allow anyone to take her from me. Napoleon Bonaparte. He wasn't just a man, he was a phenomenon, an eruption of ambition so violent it reshaped an entire continent. At 26, he was commanding armies. At 30, he ruled France. By 35, he was emperor of half of Europe. This isn't about dates. This isn't about battles. This is about the mind. What made Napoleon different? Why did millions follow him? And why did kings fear him? Today, we dive deep, not into his empire, but into the man behind it. This is the psychological blueprint of Napoleon Bonaparte. Welcome to the mind of a conqueror. 1. The will to power. At the center of Napoleon's psychology is one force, power. But this wasn't greed, it wasn't ego, it wasn't about wealth. To Napoleon, power was his rightful state. I am not a man like other men. Power is my mistress. He believed some men were born to rise, not because of bloodline, but because of vision. Roberts writes that Napoleon saw himself as the executor of history. He didn't wait for fate. He became it. This belief wasn't arrogance. It was armor. When the French Revolution shattered the monarchy, others hesitated. Napoleon surged forward. He didn't just accept power. He absorbed it. To him, commanding nations wasn't unnatural. It was inevitable. 2. Logic over emotion. The ice of command. Napoleon was emotionally intense in private, but utterly cold in command. The strong man is he who can intercept at will the communication between the senses and the mind. That's not just a quote, that's a philosophy. He trained himself to cut emotion out of decision-making, to isolate logic, to think like a machine under pressure. At Austerlitz, his men fought in fog and fire. While others panicked, Napoleon stood still, calculating angles, predicting behavior, anticipating every move. According to Roberts, he had an astonishing ability to process maps, weather, terrain, and troop movement simultaneously. In battle, he was a tactician. In statecraft, a surgeon. Emotion had its place, but never at the table of strategy. 3. An addiction to momentum. Stillness disturbed him. Inaction is a calamity. Napoleon wasn't just decisive. He was driven by motion. He constantly sought new conquests, even when peace would have brought security. After victory at Wagram, Napoleon could have stabilized Europe. Instead, he kept pushing. Russia became his obsession, not because it was wise, but because standing still felt like death. He was psychologically addicted to forward movement, to growth, to expansion. This trait made him great, and later made him fall. But he would have rather died expanding than lived shrinking. 4. The engineer of belief. Napoleon wasn't just a general. He was a psychologist of the masses. He understood that leadership wasn't about giving orders. It was about creating belief. A leader is a dealer in hope. He gave his soldiers meaning, not just a paycheck, but purpose. He told them they were part of history, that their blood bought immortality, and they believed him. This was no manipulation. He believed it too. Napoleon saw himself as a myth in motion, and in doing so made others believe they were part of something transcendent. Modern leaders study branding. Napoleon invented it. The eagle, the uniform, the laurel. Every piece of his image was crafted to speak to the heart of man. He wasn't just fighting wars. He was creating legends. 5. Loyalty by merit. He hated aristocracy. He loathed entitlement. Napoleon believed only one thing earned elevation: performance. I pick my generals by how they win, not how they dine. His marshals were promoted from obscurity, men who rose not through title, but talent. In his empire, your past meant nothing. Only your usefulness, your competence, your courage mattered. This built a brutal, efficient system. But it also created unshakable loyalty. They didn't follow him because of fear. They followed him because he saw them. He made nobodies into legends, and they paid him back with undying allegiance. 6. The weapon of silence. Napoleon rarely explained himself. He moved in silence. He spoke little, and when he did, it was strategic. The best way to remain master of others is to keep them in suspense. He was a master of psychological control. He knew that uncertainty created caution, that mystery created power. He said less than his enemies, but achieved more. Even in letters, even in exile, Napoleon remained unreadable. To him, words were weapons, not for clarity, but for control. 7. Emotional duality. Privately, Napoleon was not cold. He was intense, romantic, obsessive. His letters to Josephine were filled with fire. I awake consumed with you. Your image and the memory of last night's intoxicating pleasures has left no rest to my senses. But when she betrayed him, he grew ice cold. He once wrote, I love you no longer, at least not as I did. This emotional volatility defined his private life. He was both lover and emperor, both vulnerable and remote. He craved connection, but feared betrayal. He sought affection, but demanded loyalty. His childhood, especially his mother's cold discipline and his father's early death, left emotional scars. Scars that never fully healed. Scars that shaped a man who could burn with passion, then walk away without looking back. 8. Loss is fuel. No leader wins forever, but what made Napoleon different was how he responded to loss. After Russia, after Leipzig, after Elba, he didn't hide. He rebuilt. He returned. He rose again. Courage is not having the strength to go on. It is going on when you don't have the strength. Napoleon turned failure into fuel. He learned. He adjusted. He kept moving. Even on St. Helena, stripped of crown, army, and empire. He wrote. He shaped his story. Because while they took his throne, they never took his identity. 9. The architect of legacy. Napoleon didn't want to be remembered. He wanted to be unforgettable. He curated his legend in real time. He posed for portraits. He dictated memoirs. He controlled narrative. He understood legacy wasn't something you leave behind. It's something you build intentionally. Even in defeat, he was playing the long game. His civil code reshaped Europe. His reforms outlived him, and even his enemies copied his methods. He once said, "Glory is fleeting, but obscurity is forever." He wasn't chasing power. He was chasing immortality, and in that, he succeeded. 10. The final truth. So who was Napoleon Bonaparte? A genius, a tyrant, a narcissist, a visionary? Yes, all of it. Because he refused to be one-dimensional. He refused to be small. He was fire wrapped in discipline. Chaos shaped into order. Emotion reined in by calculation. He was not perfect, but he was immense. And above all, he was real. He bled. He lost. He loved. He burned. But he never stopped moving forward. That's why we still speak his name. The lesson isn't to become Napoleon. It's to study him, to learn from what made him inevitable. He ruled himself. He ruled his men. And for a time, he ruled the world. But even in defeat, he stayed true to the one thing that never left him: his mind, his will, his identity. You may never lead an empire, but you can lead your life with purpose, with clarity, with fire. In the end, Napoleon said it best. Take time to deliberate, but when the moment for action arrives, stop thinking and go in. So go in.